see the ladies partner, tight dress and posing. All them vendors selling food and drinks, everywhere music playing. Somewhere near a big doorway you could hear a woman calling, take a taste, 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 hey, hey. This young lady nearby me to hold me a spot. I'm going round the corner, feel to eat something hot. Is there anything I could get for you? I was asking the lady. She said she named Indrani and would love some hot chicken roti.
Thank you for joining me once again. It's a beautiful Saturday in Georgetown, Guyana. I know we're broadcasting live across Guyana, in Berbice, Essequibo, and on Facebook. Thank you for joining us. I'm looking forward to your calls today also as we discuss the recent events of this week. I've got with me Joe Hamilton, Member of Parliament, colleague of mine for decades, and look forward to our discussion, Joe, on what's happening around us. You know, somebody said today as I was coming in the studio, it took 6 months for Granger's government to understand math. Are they going to take another 6 months to understand English?
Hi, Peter, thank you very much for having me here. And you have me in a new dispensation here, standing.
Well, we're having a conversation with our colleagues out there also.
Yeah. Thank you for having me here. And a couple of things, you know, for me, quickly is this, you know. We are this place where now in Guyana, where history will determine who's on the side of democracy and who's on the side of the dictatorship. That is where we're at, you know, because 2015 brought an end to people in middle ground, and everybody took a side in 2015. What has happened since the no confidence motion? People have concretized themselves on their side, and therefore, as I said, the two options we have before us, all of us as citizens, all of us as politicians, public commentators, and even the Guyanese in the diaspora, is to either we choose democratic governance or we allow ourselves to drift into dictatorship.
So democracy is at risk.
Yes, yes. And that's why, if you recall, the chairman of the court, I think in his first paragraph before he went into the orders, he made the point about the Constitution is the bedrock and the foundation of your democratic governance of your state. It is for you to determine whether you want to honor that or not. It is not for this court. And therefore, for me, secondly, it's not, the Constitution is not on trial. It is David Granger that is on trial presently. And for all the people who thought 2011, 2015, he was a good man, he was a decent man, he was an honorable man, he was the moral barometer of the nation and the conscience of the nation, all those phraseologies, they are now seeing the real man.
He's stealing democracy.
Yes. So they're now seeing, I mean, they have several people who are still holding on. They know better, but for whatever reason, they continue to hold on, and we'll deal with some of those people as we go along, because they have some influence in their thought process in the society, and it is for us to call them out as we go along with the statements that they make. So Peter, I don't think there's a contestation anymore with the no confidence motion. That is over and out with.
Yes.
I don't think there's a contestation anymore with legal arguments. All of that is fallacy to get back into. Some people want to get. The chairman of the court made the point, this is final. This is the end of all of it. There is no avenue for anyone to come and say, we are appealing. So that is over and done with. The issue now before us as citizens is the issue of governance. What type of governance we want for this state? And I say to young people, and you know, Peter, you're a young man, and they have younger than you are, that I am old enough to say to you today that I lived through the period of undemocratic governance. I lived through the period of dictatorship. And I would say to you young people today who are listening to me, it is for you to get up and stand up for your rights. This fight is not Peter Ramsaroop, Hamilton, Jack, the only people be alone. This fight is the citizens of this country, regardless who you supported or voted for in the last elections or two. And you know, one of the things, and if we go back to history, Peter, quickly, you know, there were several persons when Hitler set up the Nazi party who believed this was in their interests in Germany, who believed this was in the interest of the German race and the German state. And they never expected Hitler to go so far. That is the thing with undemocratic governance and dictatorship. And I say this to people who want to give Granger a pass and who want to excuse his behavior. History is replete with people who thought dictators would not have gone so far. You know. And so that is, you know, what I want to say as we start this conversation.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I mean, over now, 8 months into the game, I mean, December 21st is last year. Yeah. This is 2019. You are a government that should not have been there. March 21st, I mean, the chief judge said basically, you have passed the stage of election. So there's no negotiations anymore. And that's what I think on social media, especially, and people debating this topic out there. You know, some people looking for a date, for example. But the Constitution is very clear. It says 3 months after no confidence vote the election. President of the court said, that's what you have to follow. End the story. There's no negotiation, as you said.
And he went further to say, listen, the court matters. Put a pause on this matter.
Yeah.
But on the 18th of June, there was a ruling. And the contemplation is, when the final ruling came, we are counting again, because the second counting.
Yes.
Because remember, as the chairman said of the court, election should have been held
March 21st.
Between December and March 21st. Now, we're at this place where the final ruling of the court, the 18th. Remember that, you know, some people think the ruling was yesterday. The ruling was not yesterday.
June 18th.
The ruling is nearly 3 weeks ago. It is the consequential orders, but the count going back to 1066 is June 18th, when the final ruling of the court, where no one can question anymore. And therefore the court is saying, listen to me, they're expecting people who hold constitutional office to act with integrity. And therefore, as I said, it's Mr. Granger and his integrity that is on trial.
And he's going to embarrass our country. Yeah. I mean, this is going to go through an embarrassing state over the next couple of months, because one, you must get sanctions from the international community, because we're not following our own guidelines. And I you know, when you think of things like Venezuela, we're going to court for Venezuela to make sure they don't touch our land.
To honor treaties and rules and government.
Yes, so if we can't honor our own rules, why do we think Venezuela can honor the rules?
That's the point. So you know.
And Granger, the military man, should understand that more than anything else.
You know, Peter, I'm at the state whereby I am at the place rather where I think Mr. Granger is in a state. An irrational state.
Well, yes, if you look at press conference A on this day, the press conference B on the next day, they're two different versions of the same message.
I mean, I have no training in social psychology, but I'm drifting.
It's very evident. I mean, I don't think we all need training. I think something is wrong.
Something is wrong. Yeah. Fundamentally wrong. With a thought process that the vote says, we have agreed at the meeting myself and the opposition leader, that he can resubmit the 18 names that I rejected from the 3 lists
Once the people
agree to.
Yeah.
The opposition leader called 18 persons, 11 agreed for the names to be put back on the list. And then 8 days after, the man come and said, listen, the opposition leader was presumptuous to put back.
Initially I used to blame his advisors. I would say Basil Williams is his attorney general and advise him back. But I realize now he is making it's not the advice. We know their dumpsters.
Yeah.
I mean, for the chief president of the court to tell the attorney general yesterday, you pay everybody else. That is as embarrassing as you can get, and you shouldn't even be in front of the TV after that.
Yeah.
So I don't think he's advising the president anymore. I think the president has realized he's want to steal democracy, like in '68 when democracy was stolen. I think I always call the man an historian. He wants to live back in history.
Peter, you know the thing is, the apologists for Mr. Granger, after his government went amok, they continued to attempt to separate him from his government. And they blame the government, but they still try to put him on pedestal. What this period has done is to strip all that facade and veneer away. And the point you just raised, the decision of the APNU coalition, caretaker, cabal, is Granger's decision.
Yes.
It's not anyone else. Granger is his own advisor. So over the period, as you have said, people were blaming other people.
Yeah.
But when you follow what is developing, it is Granger who somehow believes that he could take this country back into a journey between 1968 and 85. But you don't understand. The world has changed. Everything has changed. We have this here. This is the weapon that is used effectively, the smartphone. And so instantaneously your action is out there for public scrutiny.
Yeah, and if he said, I mean, he said yesterday he's willing to name a GCOM chairman by Monday. Yeah. Barjaglio immediately sent a letter off, says, I'm willing to meet today, tomorrow, all day long, all night long. Let's figure it out. I don't know if he got a reply.
Well, up as far as I know, I just left the office of the opposition. I have no information that suggests a reply came. So, Guyanese, let me say this, Peter. What is important, though, is that citizens are not fooled. The only people who are foolish and fool themselves is the caretaker government and the people who follow them. Not the Guyanese people. Guyanese people, you talk to the ordinary people. I mean, some people, they are more versed in 106.6 and 7 than Basil Williams, who is senior counsel in inverted commas. They can grasp all the language clearly, right? And so, as I said, I was reading not so long ago, and these people, we have to call them out. The David Hineses of this world. He didn't seek to defend anything as regards the pronouncement of the court. He quickly latched on to a caretaker government, according to him, is not different from an ordinary government.
Well, I mean, I don't know what type of professor he is.
Imagine that. This guy teaches people. In a university.
Well, maybe we should say Granger's just a watchman. Maybe he'll understand that. He's got to watch the government for the next couple of weeks.
If you look at the Westminster system and you look at the principles outlined, what a caretaker government does, it is more what they cannot do than what they do. And the reality is, just because a state must have a government functioning authority, they're there to execute. The primary role is to have elections be held in the fastest time possible.
But every minister is stepping into a very danger zone, because if you cannot legally do anything outside of election. I mean, that's jail.
Yeah.
That's criminal activity.
Since everything is questionable since the 21st of March. Everything that this government did locally and internationally on our behalf.
That's what I said. I'm saddened that we are going to be so embarrassed because all our foreign investors or local investors now are afraid because they now know that every agreement is illegal. It's questionable. I mean, everything will have to be reviewed. It's going to slow our economy down even further. I think a lot of U.S. companies, British companies I've talked to, they are on a standstill now. And ultimately, Granger is affecting our economy, affecting our people.
And our life.
And our life.
Our democracy, our human rights is affecting. Look, I was, as everybody was doing, Googling here and there to see what a caretaker. I looked last night at the Australian, and there were 5 major principles they outlined. 1, you're not to commit the government to come into any major contractual obligations with any force. Secondly, they said no substantial appointments should be done. I mean, like senior personnel in the government system, you should not. They went on to say this state resources, things like NCN and so, they have to be where they are at disposal just to make public service announcements, not to be partisan politically. They dealt with the issue of interaction with external people. They talk about any, say like we are members of the IMF, IDB, and going to those meetings. And in this period, you go there as in an observer status, not to commit the incoming government. And they went on to list these things and to make the point. So here you have David Ine saying, basically what he's attempting to say to us, the powers are not diminished. That is what this guy is attempting to say to us. When he must know better.
And I think the president of the court outlined it very clearly. Yeah. Your powers are limited, not the same as it is today.
As it was before the 21st of December, you know. But I suspect it is, you know, what these guys are doing to their supporters and constituents is making them more ignorant than some of them are really. I tell you what, because what he's attempting to do is to give them something to hold on to. You know? He don't want to give them the full gravity and gravamen of the situation. So he's trying to console them, but at the same time damaging them by suggesting, when he knows better, that the caretaker dispensation is just like a regular government dispensation. And you will have all of these apologies.
But there's a term that the president of the court used yesterday, integrity. Right now, I think you cannot say Granger has any integrity. If he had any integrity, he would have come on and made a speech that says, I understand the court ruling and I will proclaim the date of election within the time frame as specified by the Constitution. There's no other thing for him to say.
No, but yeah.
But so integrity, how the word integrity, that's you cannot link that next to Granger's name anymore.
No.
Did he ever have it?
Peter, you know, I say to people reach me by the hundreds around this country and they say, Mr. Hamilton, you were so spot on. Because I mean, 2011, 2015, I went across this country. You know, nothing that Mr. Granger does really shocks me, you know. I mean, I speak about it, I have to speak about it, I have to articulate it so that I can inform and I can educate citizens. But my analysis since 2011 of this man was what it is. Many people thought it was just a period, it was just a phase, and they thought, okay, it was the government that went astray, and they continued to write to separate him from this government. Now, what you're seeing clearly is all the transgressions of the government, all the hidden corruption and all the things that are happening. All of these are sanctions and sanctified by Mr. Granger and his government. No more. And so the issue of integrity.
So he is aware of all those land grabbings that are going on right now. He is absolute got to be.
Yeah, they have to pass
approve
his
it.
desk.
Yeah.
They have to pass his desk. All the land issues, they go to the office of the president to be signed off. Even if he hadn't signed on it, Armand signed on it, he must have some
Knowledge. He must have knowledge.
Some knowledge about it.
You can't sign on behalf of your boss without any knowledge.
And so you went to that issue, and now, you know, you mentioned the land. Here you have people who are appropriating assets to themselves in the name of people like me. That's offensive to me as a person of African ancestry. Where all of these charlatans who put themselves out there over the period suggesting to people of African descent that I'm fighting your cause, I'm fighting on your behalf, when given the opportunity.
And that one person I know that is in the papers on that issue is part of 5 or 6 companies.
Yeah. Not, and you know.
And working for the government.
Yes, and you have a situation where they named it African Business Roundtable. So they're acting on my behalf, Peter.
Are you from Africa?
I
mean, you may be Afro-Guyanese.
Yes, the offense is that what they are doing is that they're appropriating land, they're appropriating property, they're appropriating investment and cash to themselves. These charlatans, listen to me, Peter, if you really care, and I need to address these guys. I mentioned some names the other day, and one of the gentlemen, he was offended, leeches and barnacles and scumbags, and that is what I think they are, because what they have done, Peter, is listen. If you really cared about appropriating things to ordinary black people, you would have gone to Buxton, you would have gone to Transgrove, and you would have assembled 100 families, set up a co-op, and have them have shareholding, and that same company you could have registered and have it applied. That is when you want to help people. But here 5 men sit down in a room in my name, and they're seeking to appropriate these things in their own names. And it's supposed to be in our interest, people like me and you. And that is the greatest offense.
And even if, say, the oil company that they set up, they have no whereabouts to drill for oil, pay 30, 40, 50 million for surveys, they would have probably tried to sell that block to somebody else.
No.
Say they made 20 million, were they going to give you any?
No. Peter, and that's the issue why people must understand. The issue of all this land grabbing, it's not for development. It is not for development. The issue of wanting oil blocks is not to developers, as you mentioned. Is to be able to put themselves in a position where they can resell those blocks and make good money by doing nothing. All the lands they're grabbing up is not for national. If it was for development, what they would have done is outline a housing project or some industrial project in the interest of Afro-Guyanese and say, listen, this land here, I will seek partners to build 5,000 houses. That is when you want to help people. I would seek partners to ensure that we establish so many industries, but nothing of the sort.
And now we're in the constitutional crisis, basically, where they're abusing the powers. Yes. So all of that has to be revoked, in my mind. You use the term reviewed, but I believe it should be revoked.
All the transactions from the 21st, the lawyers would know more. The question is whether they're legally binding. You raised the point, whilst we have people who continue to play willingly ignorant here, the international people, I'm sure, would be advised by their lawyers, don't go and tie up no bundle with these people.
And as I said, I mean, our country is going to be more embarrassed. We've been embarrassed for the last 4 years, this last year for the most part. And we're going into a phase of Granger taking our country in a decline. Economics are down. The only reason we survived, had some better numbers in 2018, is because of the construction and the pipes that came in. Now, when you strip that out, our economy did
Nothing
very
has happened in the economy. Nothing at all has happened in the economy. And, you know, I was saying to people just last night, Peter, let Granger and his people continue with their madness, and we drift, God forbid, into December. And then January 2019 comes when there is no budget.
2020, yep.
2020, when there is no budget. The economic crisis we have will pale into comparison.
I don't believe Jordan will be pardoned in that deal. He
will
go to jail.
What will come in 2020?
Yeah.
Because the law states that, listen, it's only 1/12 or whatever. It basically you just do current, recurrent administration. And therefore no money would be coming out of the public sector, will be in the economy. And so, you know, as I said when I started, we are not discussing, you know, I don't think, Peter, we should discuss too much anymore the court and its ruling. The discussion is in now and moving forward what this man is doing to our country and what are the likely pitfalls that this country will face, and call on all Guyanese to ensure that we don't get there, we don't go down this road.
And as I mentioned to many people I've talked, this is not a PPP issue or a PNC issue. No. It is about if we allow democracy to be stolen again, all of us will pay the price going forward.
And for people like me, I will have to pay the price twice. I mean, the young people, it's the first price they would have, you know. So as I said, you know, the matter with the court is pellucid. So I don't want to discuss that too much. I want to discuss what is happening to our country. I want to shine the light so that people who are young would understand that we passed this place once. And thirdly, to make the point that with all the different reincarnations of the PNC is still what it is. It is the PNC. And you've seen it, and you young people, you're living it. What I can say to you is then to ensure that you put everybody put their hands on deck, and to ensure that we cut this short, that we don't go down the road of where we started in '68 and where we ended in the early '90s, when this country was a basket case, when this country we had to have a project out of the US, what they call PL 480, where the Americans had to basically supply flour to us to ensure that we could survive. You know, that is an experience we have had in this country. I know it is difficult to get it across to young people who come in a period of time under the PPP Civic, when they have access to 2 cell phones, a computer, a laptop, a flat screen TV, they live in a good house. They can't wrap their head around. You have to stand in the line for half a day to get 2 cakes of soap. You understand?
I tell people, I'm not as young as you think. I used to stand all the way by Almond Street there, going around Irving Street to St. Road to Shell gas station to buy a tank of gas, and I had to carry that tank all the way through. I get there and they're out of gas. I had to go back the next day again. So that's punishment. So, and we're getting there. I mean, you know, the fact that we're going to get sanctions from the international community, businesses will stop signing papers, coming in looking, or the taxes that we are paying now is burdensome. That's not going anywhere. You know, it can be reversed until the PP wins power. So you're right. As each individual gonna start or more feel that pain as the months go on. And you got Granger sitting driving around 18 cars a day, and he basically his resignation is already in effect. I call him now, you guys call him caretaker. Court, I want to call him man a watchman. He's just there to sit down, wait till the next president is elected,
to be sworn in, and that's it.
So he's the watchman.
So let them, let them continue. And what is appalling, Peter, and I'm sure you find yourself in the same place. there are hundreds of people who I've lost total respect for in this country over the last period, from the 21st of December 2018, beginning with the foolishness of 34 is a majority of 65, and they continued all kinds of foolishness. People who must know better.
Yeah.
People who should know better. But just...
And you can tell how upset the court was just to have to even give an order yesterday.
Yeah, because
that's why he made all the Attorney General pay everybody fees.
Because they're appalled. Their expectation is in any civilized society.
But
I mean, tell you these things.
But I use a better term. Foolishness sounds good, but I think it's stupidity.
Yeah, that's the right word, because they say stupidity is knowing the truth, seeing the truth, and still believe it.
Yeah, and I mean, I watched our Attorney General face yesterday when the President told him not just pay the main case, but you got to pay Sharon Dash attorney, you got to pay Christopher Ram and Bar Jagyo and Zulfi. Yeah. Got to pay it all. And you know what? The sad part of it is our taxpayers' money. He wasted millions of dollars of our money
on an unwinnable case. Yeah.
And the lawyer that even came up with it never put his name to fight the case for them.
He recognized it was so silly that he didn't even participate.
He laughed that his name got there.
Yeah, and he disappeared and gone and set up his oil shop in Houston. You know? And he left these dummies here. And the point you raise is, this money ain't coming out of their pocket. It is our tax-paying dollars. We that pay the taxes.
Look at all the attorneys they hired.
Yes, all these guys from Belize and Barbados, we don't even know what the price tag is for this whole charade and this farce. But at the end of the day, we have to. Those monies could have gone to feeding school children.
All the sugar workers.
It could have gone to helping the sugar workers to find new skills. It could have gone to ensuring children in the Amerindian community who are yet to get their uniforms since last year, September term. They could have gotten it. One buffoon and his government have taken us through this, something that they know, and they accepted at the night of it happening. They know that it was lawful, but they have taken us through this, and now they took the country through this legal turbulence. Now they seem to want to take us through a governmental turbulence.
You know, I use the term, sad part of our history in Joan Song, but they're drinking their own Kool-Aid.
Yeah. Because this guy ain't well.
No.
It is only time you could run how much you want.
And a lot of people are asking, Joe, what's next? We're in this crisis. We know Granger is hanging on to government. We know he doesn't want to do what the Constitution. He's disobeying the law of our land. What's next?
Well, the what's next will be determined by what the people of this country does. This country don't belongs to Granger and his cabal. This country belongs to all of us. We are participants in this state like these guys.
Yeah.
And it was for us in our interest to wake up and do something individually and collectively. It is not, and that's why we started out. Both you and I made a point. It's not a barrage, the old PPP fight and Irfan Ali and Ramsaroop and Hamilton fight. It is the citizens of this country, regardless who you voted for in 2015.
And who you would vote for.
And who you would vote for.
Democracy is at stake. Let's take one or two calls, Joe. I want to hear what the folks are. Hello.
Morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I'm just listening to the conversation with you. You know where you get election day? So?
Well, the court, I mean, we're in the zone for election within the 3-month cycle. As you said, the date started back June 18th.
What GCOM is saying?
Well, GCOM at the moment, one of the issues is ensuring we have a chairman selected to head the GCOM, because GCOM is basically not a functional organism. I'm talking about policy-wise, without a chairman there. I can tell you, for the public's sake, I attended as described on behalf of Mr. Jack, the last meeting with the teams. And there were two issues that came up that our team thought it was useless continuing this conversation. Two things quickly. One, of the 11 names Mr. Jagdeo submitted, the Granger team said that 5 of the people are shortlisted. They couldn't indicate two things. One, whether it is they're the ones who shortlisted the 5 or the president. And secondly, what shortlisting means. Is it that if president finds these 5 people unacceptable?
That's another delaying tactic.
Right. They say some other procedure.
Yeah.
The question they couldn't answer, what procedure. And for the caller and viewers, the most laughable part of the conversation is that the 8 persons that were submitted by them on behalf of Mr. Granger, they couldn't say that the 8 persons are unacceptable to Mr. Granger. I mean, it is comedy that you submit 8 names, but you can't say if the president find all of them 8 acceptable. His team couldn't say that.
And it was blatant, though, that the president would submit names of PNC card, if you say GCOM is an independent body, and we've gone through all this process, you're going to submit names of executives of the party to be...
Yeah. And Peter, some of these guys, we know them. We know them personally, intimately. We work with these guys, you know, and the list is there with. So, the caller, the GCOM is waiting for a chairman. Mr. Granger said that he can name a chairman Monday. Mr. Jagdeo via Ms. Gail Chair wrote Harmon to Granger last night, overnight, and we're waiting on the response from Mr. Granger because Jagdeo's position is that he can reach right through the weekend every day,
and he
up to the 15th and
absolutely.
So the ball is in Mr. Granger's court to now determine.
Let's take it out. Hello.
Yes, good
afternoon.
What are we going to do with the Einstein sisters with this calculation about 34 and a quarter and a third?
No, we have passed that stage. That matter is already over and done with, and that's why I was saying, we were saying on the program, I don't think we should continue to have the conversation about the legal issues. That is a done deal, over and done with. What we have to deal with is now
the Constitution
and the constitutional issues now and then. And we have to continue to put pressure on the man without integrity who calls himself president. That is where we're at. It's not going back to the 34 and all them. Those things have already water under the bridge. The court has ruled, and the ruling is pellucid. The consequential orders are pellucid. And we're in a zone where elections should be held. Must be held. Where we are saying to Mr. Granger, quickly sit down with the opposition leader and get a chairman and do a proclamation, name a date for election. That is where we're at. It's not the case anymore.
Yeah, so the point, the question I asked you when we started this conversation is, what's the next step? The next step is to follow the Constitution.
That's the next step. It's a governance issue. It's not legalese anymore. We have already past that stage.
Hello.
Hi, gentlemen. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, sir.
My question, if these people bullying their way right now, with this, you think if they lose the election, they would ever want to come up? My problem here is that how do we get them to come, to do what is right? Because it seems as though we're toothless. Although the judgment and everything is in our favor, we're toothless. We can't get these people to honor any agreement, anything. We just say one thing today and 2 minutes after. It's the most dangerous thing when you do here.
Thank you.
Colonel, I could understand your frustration, but let me say to you, people's power and people's pressure have caused more benign dictators than David Granger to buckle and fall. Right now there's an example, you can go look at it. In Sudan, where a man who was a dictator for 30 years, he is in prison right now. So The point I'm making, I know the frustration with people. I know the fact that people, honorable, honest people, believe that their leaders should have some integrity and follow the law. But we're here with a person who has no integrity, who don't want to follow the Constitution. And I'm saying that's why I'm calling on all the citizens of this country to protect your democracy, to protect your, because once democracy goes, Peter, your human rights will go.
And that's a serious crisis for us. Yes, hello.
Peter, I want to know something. Why is it Mr. Grange is not instructing the laws of this country? Why not be asked the Guyana Chamber of Commerce, the private sector, to close down Georgetown for 1 week and put more pressure on this government? They have to go.
Thank you. Well, we're going to see over the next couple of weeks. I mean, Mr. Granger is in a dangerous situation right now. One, he's disobeying the laws of our land. I believe our economics will go on a decline. People are concerned about the risk of democracy. So entities such as the international community, private sector bodies, all will have to determine how they react to this, just like all of us are reacting to it.
And every citizen, Peter, I dare say, because you know more than I do, the Americans, they have a saying that all politics is local.
Yes.
At the end of the day, bad politics would end up affecting you personally.
Absolutely.
As a mother, you can feed your children today. Bad politics and policies of a cabal would ensure you won't end up, you can't feed your children. Because at the end of the day, it will get dear. You cannot, as a father, be able to feed your children. You, as a mother, will not be able to take care of all the social responsibilities of your children. That is where you will end. And so for people who are taking this lightly, thinking it's this is affecting me,
Yes.
time will tell you. It will affect you.
Yes.
Very shortly.
Yes, caller. Hello? I lost that there.
So it is for all of us to continue the struggle, to fight, to protect, because, you know, dictatorial government or governments with dictatorial instincts, once they start down the path, they have to tamper with human rights. And that is where that water is more murky than this one. Because once you're not democratic, you would want to, when people, because people will speak up and out, and people will rally, and people will that, and people who got dictatorial instinct, you would want to stop that, because the game plan is, and it's the total dictatorial mode of Mr. Granger you would have seen, where even though you have a crisis, they attempt to operate like there isn't a crisis. That is how dictators are.
That's a scary situation.
Yeah.
Yes, caller.
Good afternoon, gentlemen.
Good afternoon.
Where were you two guys when the Constitution was here? And 450 mothers were weeping for the children lost under the previous administration. Now, you are calling on the present government to limit up. Where was the Constitution when the past administration were doing all the things that y'all were there to see and know that was wrong?
Okay, caller, I can answer you. Let me start out by telling you, where was I? I was once an executive member of the People's National Congress. And if I tell you some stories, some of them I cannot tell you over this TV. You asked that question, where was I? The same question you asked many of your leaders, where they were. They were in the Gulf with the people who were freedom fighters. Some of the same people that present themselves and you argue and you will argue and defend them. They were back there giving coaching to people who were brandishing AK-47 and plundering Buxton and all the villages and killing people of all ethnic groups. And this foolishness and fallacy about 400
I looked at the list yesterday. Even Fine Man is on the list.
All these bastards and these bandits that were killing people, they are on some list that you said that mothers weep for them. What happened to the people who they killed who they were killing, who they killed in Lusitania, who they killed at Batik and all over the place, all the businessmen. They don't have wife and family and mother to feed for them. So first thing, the list is a fallacy. The list got all names, Indian, Amerindian, everybody on it. Secondly, all the thief men and robbers are on the list. And thirdly, the business people also who they killed. So the list is a fallacy. And I'm saying to you that I can tell you some stories that I can tell you over here on this television. I can tell you some stories about some of the people that the caller and his type, you all defend what they were involved in that was dangerous to the state we call Guyana. And I will say no more on that. So stop this nonsense conversation about this 400 list of 400. That is a fallacy. It's a dream. And you see now, let me extend this to make the point. All these people were calling for justice for these people. They're in government for 4 years. Why they didn't hold an inquiry about all these killings? Granger in government for 4 years. He said he would have done that. He promised you and people like you. He promised this nation that he will hold an inquiry about all the killings, as he called it, the troubles he called the time. Why he did it? He has yet to do that. They were to do inquest on all the killings. They brought a bill to the parliament, said it was urgent so that the president could identify magistrates to do inquest. They have done none. Thirdly, the same people who articulated how important African Guyanese were to them and they're defending them, today they're in power. Are they doing anything in the interest of the ordinary African Guyanese? The answer to that question is no. The evidence suggests that they're setting up companies in their own name, appropriating large swaths of lands all over the place, not in your name. And it offends me and ordinary people who are unable, because of the policies of this government, they're unable to buy bread to feed the children. They still continue to defend this atrocity. It really offends me.
And in the zone we're in right now, every minister and the president, based on the Constitution, has resigned.
Yes.
So going forward, they got no powers to put, and they can't go to Parliament unless the opposition.
Well, the opposition is already.
Mr.
Jagio is clear and pellucid that there's no extension. That will happen. He will not agree. We will not do it. So that is out of the way. So we're in illegal territory. We're in drifting territory, and the ball is in David Granger court. And if, as you know, the callers and the like, you all say he's an honorable man, he's godly, and all them phraseology, it's not talk. The proof is in the pudding. It's doing. Let us see if he can do, and he's not doing.
Yes.
Good afternoon, Mr. Peter.
How are you?
That man speaking is a fool. He's a fool. He's a part that did this up to people.
Well, I can tell you, caller, I've known Mr. Joe Hamilton for probably close to 2 decades. I've worked with him as part of the PNC too. And so we have known each other. I can tell you his work going forward. He's a Guyanese that stands up for democracy, and not because of his color of skin. And that's one thing we've got to realize. And that's one thing that I would say about the People Progressive Party. Regardless of race, color, texture of your hair, your religious belief, everyone is accepted, and we are fighting for democracy here. This is not about the politics of a party. Democracy is at risk.
Or people of one ethnic origin. Yes. That is not a conversation. Yeah. It is about, we either choose democracy or dictatorship. That is where this country is at presently. And as I said, many people would understand when they personally start to feel it. When they're unable to feed themselves and their children. I mean, today, it's early times, Peter. But as you would know more than I, as the economy continues to drift, as money continues to contract, as Jordan being unable to pay public servants, And you know, out of his own mouth came something like that in this consultation he had, where he said, I'm reading one of the newscasts reporting what he said. He said that the money that they're asking him to pay DIPCON, that money can be used betterly, in a better way, paying teachers. So you understand what he's saying is that he has to he has to now determine what he do with money because money is scarce. That is the bottom line. This judgment, he cannot honor it, even though he might be locked up, because he has to determine whether I take $700 million and give DIPCON, or I keep that money, holding it, so that I can transfer it to the Ministry of Education, so that teachers can be paid. So we're already there.
But why in 2019, David Granger is taking Guyana in an uncivilized mode? This next decade is probably one of our best decade that we will have as a nation going forward. And here's the president, the last year of this current decade is going to ruin our country to a point where it's going to have to be rebuilt all over again. We've got to, as citizens, stand up and stop this. I mean, he's no longer the president in my mind. He's a watchman or a caretaker. But the fact is, if a man is sitting in that seat cannot follow the laws of the country, what did he swear to when he got in there? He swore to follow the Constitution of Guyana, and he's not doing it, and it's taking us in non-civilized mode. We've got to, again, the concerns going forward for all of us. I mean, this is, I tell people, this is not a political issue anymore. This is a citizen democracy issue, and we cannot entertain Granger and his team moving into believe that they own Guyana. If they're so concerned and they're so confident, the Constitution has called election. You win fair and square. You know, don't cheat the system. Have a fair and free election.
You said you did all these wondrous works for people.
Yes.
Call election.
Yeah. Let's take another call. Hello.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
You two guys are doing a fantastic job.
Thank you.
Sir, I was ready to understand a caretaker government cannot make certain decisions. That is what I reading about, right? So what I'm saying is that the people need to look at the caretaker government now, because you got to look at them also. Remember, you're a citizen of this country and you need to take care of your country. So you have to keep an eye on the caretaker government, because these people can be doing anything. And there is a big victory for the People Progressive Party. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you. I think a big victory for
the people of Guyana. And two
yeah.
things, a profound thing they call it just said. All of us are caretakers of this country. The caretaker government is in a legal sense.
Yes.
But all of us are stewards of this country. And therefore we cannot allow Mr. Granger and his cabal to take us down a road where it will only be pain and gnashing of teeth. The road is taken us down. We have, we went down that road already, this country, where you became the pariah in the Caribbean and for
and bullyism in there. I can tell you, Peter Ramsaroop, and I go to travel out of Temeri Airport. They put me on a watch list because I called Mr. Granger a dictator. The fact that he can't follow the Constitution, I'm on a watch list. I've got to get approved going out and coming in my own country. That's bullyism. That's dictatorship.
Maybe
that's what maybe
the point I was just making.
Yeah.
That is what dictator does. Tamper with your human rights. What they're attempting to do is to restrict the free movement of a citizen. That's what they're attempting to do. We passed that one. You see, you could travel. There was a time when people who were on the list could not leave the airport.
I give that example for people to realize that if you allow this to go further, it can get to that point.
And that's why I said earlier, the history of Nazi Germany suggests that many people said they did not expect Hitler to go so far.
Yes, caller, go ahead.
Now, if we have the election tomorrow, that's what it is what we contemplating on, right? And which party will lose? Assume a party lose, and they say, well, the election flag. What will they do again? What Ghana will go forward with? If you go at that vote list, say it's clean and all. Hello?
Yes, I'm with you all the time.
And let me say, okay, the ruling party, the list, let me check the list, and it's bloated or flammable, and this and so forth. What will the Guyanese people do? What Guyanese people do again? Sit and wait on the next ruling from the CCJ?
The point is, Pacola, let me say, I thought that conversation about the list.
So minister died a couple of years ago. Does any inquest on that party yet?
My friend Mr. Granger committed to having an inquest for the same minister. He was in power for 4 years.
Who can't be both politicians that don't?
I'm saying, listen, Mr. Granger committed, and one of his promise is to have an inquest of all the killings, including the minister that you just called.
Are telling me that the previous government and the present government didn't do anything. So how the Guyanese people believe in these parties?
No. The previous government did a lot.
My friend next door to you there.
Yeah.
When the PPP was giving him a heart, and today he still comes in with them. How can we trust you?
The thing is,
trust no politician.
Okay, my friend, you need to understand. Life is a journey, and you make decisions based on the information you have at a specific time and moment.
Mm-hmm.
And so you ask the question I'm attempting to answer you, caller, that for me, and I know Peter can speak for himself, when I examined the policies of the People's National Congress, I recognized that I couldn't stay there anymore. I couldn't continue to participate. And I give you a stark example of my break with the PNC is when these guys deliberately send ordinary poor people to be killed in the office of the president's compound. Don't forget that. The question I asked them, I note that none of y'all mother and cousin and wife, they weren't in that protest and struggle, as you call it. It was ordinary, poor, Afro-Guyanese people, and let me make that point. There, a woman who was killed there had 6 children from Anns Grove. And I made that point that y'all don't care a damn about ordinary people. And so that is the first point. The second point is, you look at the history of the People's Progressive Party Civic. Many of the things that you experience and you participate in, it came about because the People's Progressive Party Civic did it in government. Where in the healthcare sector, infrastructure, social sector, I could go through the list. So it is not correct to say that the PPP did not do. The evidence is there. We can say, and I can say with certainty, this government is yet to do. Whatever projects they are doing, and many of them, or most of them, they're doing badly and unable to complete, those are projects that were left.
A single new party.
People's Progressive Party.
You know, I listened to Granger last night at the U.S. Ambassador residence for the July 4th celebration. He talked about how the future of Guyana is in the green strategy of 2040. And, you know, I saw, everyone snickering there. And really all we know about the green strategy is painting of buildings.
Yeah.
And that's a man who believes that's the green strategy. He believes that painting buildings is the future of Guyana. And we've got too much at stake going forward. As we wrap up, Joe, democracy is at risk. Our citizens are paying the price with the heavy tax system that Granger and Jordan has put on us over the last 4 years, 200 plus taxes. There have been no new development, as you talked about. We've got a beautiful, exciting decade ahead of us. And these guys are going to hold on to power when the Constitution specifically says, get out, get on with elections. Fair and square, go, let's compete. Let's put the historian of Granger next to the economist of Irfan Ali. And let them tell us how they're going to run the future of our country. We're in that state right now. and it's at risk, and we all have to stand up.
The thing is, Peter, as we wrap up, is the slogan of Walter Rodney in the 70s and the 80s is so appropriate at this time, where we chanted people's power, no dictator. We have to rechant that. And what is shocking is that a lot of people used to be chanting it with Rodney. They were beside the dictator at the moment. You know, they're defending the dictator, but put that aside. It is people's power, no dictator. When I started this program, I will end the same way. Today, it's not to discuss the legal aspect of the no confidence motion. We have passed that. It is over with. It is not to discuss issues about list. We have passed that. It is over with. GCOM, the court says, a constitutional body, have to be ready to hold elections.
Anytime.
Anytime. And the final issue is that all of us as citizens, this is the time we have to determine whether we are on the side of democracy or we are on the side of dictatorship. And this country is ours, and we must ensure that democracy reigns and dictatorship don't take us down the road of perdition.
I agree, Joe. I think as we move forward, sorry we couldn't take all your calls today. We'll continue the discussion, but pay attention to what is happening around you. As Joe said, it is serious. We've got to fight for our democracy. We cannot allow this to happen to Guyana again. And all of us will pay the price if we don't stand up. And if you're an APNU supporter, or a PNC supporter, or a PP supporter, this issue is not about Granger and Jagdeo. This issue is about us. Democracy is at stake. We all can have our voting rights in the next few weeks or months when there's elections, and we can exercise that. But democracy is at stake. Granger is disobeying the law of our Supreme land, and he must be told that he is. And it's unconstitutional, and it's time for him to give up power and call elections. Thank you for joining. Thank Joe. Thanks for being part.
Thank you very much for having me, Peter.
Looking forward to our discussions again on Tuesday night at 8 o'clock. Thank you. God bless.